Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the shit show known as Movie of the Year, the only podcast on the internet that has the science and the screaming to determine what is the single greatest movie of any given year. My name is Ryan, and I will be your host for this, the single least downloaded episode of Movie of the Year in history. Tonight, we take a look at Mishima, A Life in 4 Chapters, a movie co-written and directed by Paul Schrader, a pop filter, maybe future Hall of Famer, and we are going to break this movie down in a competitive game show style. Joining me, as always, is the winner, the champion, as far as last week goes, because we watch The Goonies, and we alternate every week. Mike, you're here.
Yeah.
You're developing a reputation, especially this season, where you win all of the dumb movies that children like, and then your opponent, whoever that may be, will win the smart ones.
Yeah.
Do you agree with that assertion?
I mean, I'm a man of the people, you know. I don't pinch my nose at anybody. I don't think I'm above anybody. I sniff all the underwear.
Sniff all the butts?
And
you don't,
so I think
you don't bite your thumb at anybody.
I bite my thumb. I do bite my thumb at you, sir. But I don't bite my thumb.
Whoa.
That's a reversal.
That's full reverse. They just get confused and walk away. We're not sure.
Greg,
Yo.
we've decided to ask you to come here and challenge Mike.
Yes.
On this very special episode. I do think that we are going to talk about a movie tonight that is closer to your Comes and Sees than your Goonies.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
No.
Here's what I do. Whenever I'm watching a movie, I ask myself, do other people think this movie is important? And if I think that they think it is, I get very excited about it. And I am assuming that this is the kind of movie that people who are in the know get very excited about. And so I myself am very excited about it.
Motherfucker, it's got subtitles and some of it is black and white.
Yeah, dude.
I mean, of course it's important.
Some of it is very bright color, though.
Yeah,
That is true,
it's
yeah.
very bright colors surrounded by pitch blackness and a weird artsy soundstage thing. It's really hitting all of the things the NPR crowd loves.
Sometimes we'll talk about movies where it goes from quiet whispering to loud explosions, and you have to have the controller, the remote in your hand to control the volume. This is the video version of that.
Yeah.
Don't open your eyes too wide during the black and white
dim,
part.
dim.
My wife is sleeping. Please
This
dim.
pavilion is too golden.
Burn it to the ground.
Oh, that's going to be bright.
But this is this movie, when we first heard about it on the intro show, I had a feeling, I think we all did, that it was probably going to turn out to be pretty good, even though we didn't know much about it. And it's just another one of these really very, very high quality movies that were not big blockbusters, but are just a delight to watch. Very interesting and asks a million questions and probably doesn't really answer many of them, but they're very interesting questions.
Yeah, it really highlights how many movies I watched growing up that asked zero questions of its audience.
Yeah.
And we're all one chapter.
Yeah.
And basically most popular movies, like The Goonies is an example of this, does a lot more giving answers than it does asking things. It's like, it tells you this is the way people should live, and they don't because they're stupid, crusty, wealthy, golf course loving idiots. Or they're evil kids. But, the way you should be is you should love people, even if they're a little strange. But this movie is, Mishima is just I don't know, man. Life's really complicated.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff happens.
Is beauty power, or is beauty like a rotten tooth? Who could say?
I thought that was kind of a false dichotomy between those two guys. Maybe beauty's something different than either one of those.
So throughout the course of this episode, we're going to see what... We're not going to answer any of these questions. If Paul Schrader decided not to, then we're probably not going to.
Yeah, I'm not going to do his job for him.
Fucking lazy asshole.
Yeah.
But we are going to bring up the questions and discuss if they were well asked, and then ultimately, answer them. We're fucking 3 white dudes on a podcast. This is what we're here for. But I don't know if we're going to talk a lot about what we thought about the movie. So we've got 2 minutes right in the beginning to talk about our opinions. Overall, how did this movie work for you? And I say overall in a way that's different than when I say that about most movies, because this is such a collage. It's such a pastiche that it does run the risk of some working, some not, or none of it being great, but all of it adding up to greatness.
For sure, because there are 4 chapters. It lets you know in the title, but each chapter has the subsections between present day flashbacks and then the story adaptations, and that sets itself up for, at least if you're on this kind of podcast, to compare them the whole time, to start comparing. Like, well, that one's good. I guess this one's not as good. But everything we like in a moody movie is, will I keep thinking about this? And it is really, really hard not to. It might just be the questions they're asking are the kinds we love anyway, but it is really hard to ignore and forget this movie.
Now, Greg, you watched Topher Grace's edit, right, where it's all chronological and most of it is the prequels?
Yeah.
Did that change it for you?
It's hard to say because I didn't watch the other one.
That's true. How would you know?
So I'll tell you one thing. It was 90 minutes. In fact, that's all I'm going to say. This would have been the best movie I had ever seen on Movie of the Year, except I'm going to say it. I don't think I like it more than I like Brazil and Come and See. But like, I think that these are the 3 best movies we've ever seen for the. I don't know if I'm just like going through something, and so I'm excited to watch these movies, but like, they challenge the notion of what movies really are, and in doing that, this one by doing it like with a lot of it, like in your face staging. Like, now we're obviously on a sound stage. This is obviously like, this isn't the reality of the movie. This is a fiction inside the reality of the movie, and all of that stuff keeps you so unmoored in a really exciting way. And you just kind of give yourself over to the experience of this movie, and you are sure you're in capable hands almost right away. And it's transporting. I think that's what I've liked about all 3 of these movies. Come and See was transporting in a very horrific way, obviously. And some of this is very tough as well, but it's just like, it is such an experience, from the music to the color to the different stagings. It's just absolutely blow you away, like one moment to the next. And
I'm with you mostly. I don't know. And part of it, maybe I read Paul Schrader's book last week, or I read most of it. I read it until Mary Trump's book came in the mail, and then I had to switch over. And I think it's possible that sort of hurt me watching the movie, but the book is all about his idols, his 3 director idols, and I see a lot of stuff that he's not doing as successfully as those 3 guys.
Oh,
and
wow.
He'll be the first one to tell you that. But I think there's a lot of stuff. I think there's a lot of slow cinema, as he calls it, in the movie, and then I think there's a lot of stuff where he sort of hedges his bets and does go a little Hollywood. And we're going to get to this later, but your treatment of your main character, especially in biopic, is very, very interesting to me. And his treatment here is something that I think I'm going to be grappling with for the rest of my life. Like, his decisions here, whether or not this movie totally worked for me, it has to go high on some sort of list. I don't know, make a list and put it high because of all of the decisions. Like, this is not someone who is like, I don't know, movies work like this, right? Let's do it that way.
It's a lot like Come and See in Brazil in that way. Like, this movie has a high decisions per second rate. Mm-hmm. Like, this guy is doing stuff nonstop. And you can like or not like what he's doing, but he's throwing a lot at you really fast.
I want to dive into it, so let's take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk. We're going to dive into Mishima. In 1985, best beard buds, Francis Ford Coppola and George Lucas, decided to raise $10 million for Paul Schrader, despite the fact that he didn't have a beard, and despite the fact they knew there was no fucking chance they would get their money back. That's because Paul Schrader decided to co-write and direct Mishima, A Life in 4 Chapters. The movie is a biopic of Japanese writer Yukio Mishima, but we're using the term biopic very loosely, more loosely than people who call them biopics. As the title states, the movie is broken down not just into 4 chapters, called Art, Beauty, Action, and finally Harmony of Pen and Sword, but also alternates between entirely different styles of film. We have the modern-looking storyline, which details Mishima's last day on Earth as he plans a sort of coup with his personal army. We have the black and white flashbacks, shot like the old-school films of Schrader's idol, Ozu, who was one of the directors in that book. And then we have bright, colorful, stagey excerpts of 3 of Mishima's novels. All of these are woven together to make something closer to a collage of a life, as opposed to, say, Walk the Line. Taste buds, let's start here. How did Schrader's Mishima mishmashing add to or take away from telling the story of Mishima?
So many times when people make biopics, they do that. We got to shove in their whole life, and that tends to walk the line in a way where we say be bad, not walk the line and do it talentedly. Right. And so the ones that work are like, here's a weekend in Robert Plant's life. And you're like, oh, cool, I like that. Where this is still covering so much Mishima's life, but it's like, okay, but fuck the events of his life. What are the themes of his life? And I've never seen that in a biopic. What are the themes he marinated on, and how can we show that in a film?
And I mean, it separates the artist from his art to show you that that's kind of a false dichotomy. Because if you want to really know about Mishima, why watch any movie about him? The dude wrote 70 books. He will tell you what his... And obviously, now looking back at his life, we can see how the things he put in those books actually really did inform his thinking and make him as a person. And so when we are shown his major thematic ideas staged as the dramas they are and not as the things he said in real life, his real life is actually kind of boring and drab compared to the very taut world of his novels, highly artistic and very stylized and everything.
But as far as his life goes, I mean, I know that nobody can live a life like what they write, what fiction was capable of, but didn't it seem in a lot of ways stranger than fiction? Like in the flashbacks where we have this very odd grandmother takes over him as a kid and then is
very weird family dynamic.
Oh yeah.
Far more abusive. Yeah, far more abusive than whatever his mom was doing. And I think this does create a sense in when we get the excerpts of sons and their maternal guardians maybe being a little bit too close. And then, fighting through all of these stereotypes of who he is, which is sort of weak, sort of effeminate, trying to figure out what it means to be a man, and then having a personal army.
Yeah.
That seems like an exciting life.
Yeah, I don't know if I would call his life drab.
Well, let's keep in mind he's creating a different level of fiction when he talks about this personal army. Really look at those dudes. What is it, 20 guys that get dressed up and if you look at his mission is absolutely absurd. He's just going to go capture one military functionary and deliver one speech to one group of guys, and the thing he's calling for is to restore the emperor to the position of power. Something that, throughout the history of Japan, the emperor hasn't even held power that often. It's generally been a ceremonial position.
Yeah, it's definitely an older Japanese version of Project Mayhem with less success and less follow through. And I feel like it shows that he loses his touch with reality throughout life, or he never really had it because of the way he grew up. He thinks, well, I wrote about this and that guy looks like a hero, so now I'll try to do the same thing.
He seems to come to the conclusion that you should just do something.
Yeah.
That by the end of the movie, it seems like his feeling is you should just commit to one action and do something. Even if that thing isn't clearly articulated, what you're trying to get, it's still better to do something than to just talk about things.
But I want to point out Schrader's Americanness here, and we're going to get more in depth to it in it later, but just right here, I got to give the movie a ton of credit for, in the modern day scenes, making me think that what's about to happen on this day in the full color modern day scenes is very important,
Yeah.
very dramatic, and is definitely going to work.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the longer that you watch all parts of the movie, and this speaks to how great the collage is, but the longer you watch all parts of the movie, from the black and white parts, the flashbacks, to the excerpts from the books, you start to realize, oh no, I'm not sure if Yukio is going to be okay. And then the fourth chapter is just a heartbreaking implosion of when your morals and ethics and like your big beliefs just fall all on top of you.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's definitely Chekhov's seppuku. Is that how you say? How do you say that word?
Seppuku,
Chekhov, yeah.
Seppuku. Because we see it in one of the stories, and then we see Mishima filming it. Him filming, like he gets it. They don't really explain what he's doing. This is what the collage does. You're like, okay, I guess a part of his life he's doing films now. And then so by the time you're like, well, yeah, he had to. I've seen it twice and it's fake. So of course he has to do it at the end.
I mean, he was like as big as like Stephen King. He was like the premier authorial celebrity. So he's doing like stage productions, film productions, like so many speeches and books at this point.
I mean, so much so that Japan was really upset about this movie because of the portray, and particularly Mishima's wife, but also the entire country banned it because it portrays him potentially, probably, maybe as a homosexual.
Yeah, I would say that I heard that about the movie that like they like wanted parts of it cut out because of that, and I would say the movie pretty unequivocally like comes to the conclusion that this is a gay guy.
Yeah, I'm not
like,
sure what the confusion is.
And like, do they feel like they got the part out of it that they wanted nobody to know about? He's like basically, obviously, a guy who loves men and finds men attractive. Like it's not
the happiest
edited.
he is when he convinces, because his celebrity, to let them like train on an army base, not get trained by the army. He's running them through non-drills. It looks like Andy and Michael Scott doing parkour in Dunder Mifflin, and he's like, that's really the purest, true happiest that I have ever been. And yeah, it's a fascinating take. I mean, that take on history is so annoying. Is like, it's being real, so don't show that shit. Get that out of this country is so frustrating.
The idea that we have a modern day in color section of the movie and then a black and white flashback is not super new. But the thing that I think that separates the movie is that each chapter of the first three of the four chapters, the fourth chapter is basically just the attempted coup, but the first three chapters each have an excerpt, a section from one of his novels. And the way that they're filmed is almost like 1930s Technicolor musical on a stage. Everything is bold and bright and it looks far different than anything else. And sometimes they try to hide the fact it's on a stage, and sometimes you can see benches move away and the tracks that they move away on. Like,
or there's that one scene where the crowd is just walking around in a circle around like the action.
Yeah, I mean it's filmed Broadway in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
What was it like the first time we cut to that for you guys in your viewing experience? And then looking back at it now, how effective was it?
I was very surprised when it happened, and I would say when it first happened, my first impression was like, okay, this might be kind of a gimmicky thing that's going on here. There had already been a lot of changes. That there had been a colored section, a section in black and white, and then this new like stage. But I would say you forget about that because of how engrossing the performances are almost right away. And then by probably the end of the Golden Pavilion thing, I'm just, as a viewer, I'm just like, okay, no, this is a good choice. And then the rest of the movie seems to confirm how helpful it is to have like the images of it being staged to help us understand as viewers where we are in reality, but also to help us understand that the movie is purporting to show one person's interaction with his own internal fictions that he creates.
It would ring so false if they had scenes where like the Queen movie, didn't see it, but I know there's scenes where they're like, and I just think at some point we will rock you, and they're like, is that a song? And it transfers. Like so many biopics are trying to like, see, this is what their real life did, and that's why their art did this. So for them to just dive purely into the art and be like, no, we are not saying he gave this speech about beauty is power or a rotten tooth. We're just saying this is in the book, but that how to play with the ideas that he is thinking about all the time. It reflects it in a really non-cheesy way while using tools that we do tend to think of as cheesy, but it's fucking gorgeous.
Yeah, and I think there's a whole other point just on like Schrader's behalf by doing it this way, because like the audience is supposed to say, what happened? This looks stupid and fake. His books are fake. Wait. No, I think that they might have some points and shine a light onto his real life. And Schrader's just saying, like, yeah, see, like, you could do that with really anybody, any artist. You could say, here's the fiction. It looks like fiction. Now, and we know it's fiction. We can all agree. Look at the colors. Look at the, the extras walking around. But once we, like, come to terms with that, now what can we see? Now what can we, like, will reveal itself about the author?
And then when you get to the granular level of the performances are so real and living in those scenes. And so that helps it. Like, there's not the broad stage acting that would, like, sort of, like, mimic the staging of the scene. Instead, people are all very present in the scene. And I'm thinking specifically of the pink sort of, like, restaurant pagoda that they're sitting around, where the crowd is just walking in a circle. Like, some people are carrying a segmented thing that says bus stop. It's all supposed to be, like, a very, like, almost like a dance number. But then they're having this conversation about the human body and about reproducing it through art. And it is like seriously sitting in a cafe listening to people just, like, talk. Yeah. And so that juxtaposition of, like, the hyper reality and then, like, the very logical human conversations, especially that guy's performance, the guy who comes in and is like, you should kill yourself. If your body is the most important thing, then at the height of your physical powers, you should kill yourself. That is such a well-delivered line, and it turns out, hey, that's kind of an important idea in the rest of the action of the movie. And
it's using these story pieces is such an interesting way to plant those seeds without, like, it didn't change. It never changed the way I was thinking about the character of Mishima. Like in the Golden Pavilion, the stuttering character who's, like, the main part of that story, at a certain point he says, like, my name will be famous, I will be in headlines. It's real incel energy. Like, nobody likes me, but like at no point was like, oh, the man Mishima thought like that. And then by the end I'm like, holy shit, they told me so early on this was going to happen. Like,
but yeah, like, it's the reverse of what you were talking about, Mike. It's the anti Bohemian Rhapsody. Instead of saying, I should kill myself and then run out and kills himself, it's just all these seeds that, all come in to feed a life, to, like, I don't know, highlight, to be a foil to whatever your traits are. And then your life plays out and all of these things from your past are part of it. It's not, it's never like, I heard this one thing, now my direct reaction will create history.
Right.
All right, guys, we do have to take a break. I am so sorry. I do want to get we were supposed to get into Schrader as an American. I'm going to try to find time for that later. But excellent job. We have to talk about the movie so we can build a Mount Rushmore.
Mount Rushmore!
That's right, gentlemen. It's Mount Rushmore time. Every week on the show, we decide that presidents shouldn't get the only mountain. What if other stuff, mostly focused around the year 1985, did? We have talked so much all season about the adults of 85. And that
we talked about the hot girls. We talked about the hot boys.
We talked about the hot boys, and we talked about the women who respectfully dressed as if they were in 1985, if I remember the segment correctly. But what about the babies?
Talk about the hot
What
babies.
about the babies? Not the hot babies, Greg. I can't keep correcting you like this.
Ryan, I looked at some of the 85 babies, and some of them have grown up to be wonderfully attractive professional soccer players.
They were ugly babies who turned into attractive adults.
I'm going to go to Mike in the booth here. Mike, what are you looking for in an 85 baby?
85 baby, I'm looking for, like 10 fingers, 10 toes. We are, unfortunately, ableist on this show. And no, somebody who's big pop. They were born in 85. That is a definite requirement. And then they are big in pop culture now. They have to be relevant.
That first one is the most important, though, right?
Born in 85?
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
That's inarguable.
You can't try to make up for how relevant they are if they're not from 85.
I'm also
President Trump, not born in 85, but very relevant right now.
Inarguably relevant.
I'm going to give you guys both a point right off the bat. because this segment is called Rushmore Babies, and neither one of you have sung it to the tune of Muppet Babies, and I appreciate that.
In my head the whole time.
It's very hard not to right
Yeah.
now. Now that you've said that, I'm dying.
I'm dying.
Greg, you are the challenger, so you're up to give the Slammy D, who is the most relevant person today, Juniper 29th, 2020,
Okay.
that was born in 85.
This might be a Greg special, but she is certainly in our consciousness all the time. Lover or hater, she gets a lot of attention. Her pussy tastes like Pepsi Cola. It's Lana Del Rey. I like Lana Del Rey so much, and I feel like this is the perfect show to talk about Lana Del Rey, because Mishima is a movie that says to us, like, if we have artistic expression from somebody, do we need to hear from them as a person outside of that artistic expression? And Lana Del Rey is a perfect example of, like, don't talk to me about what she says when she's being interviewed.
Please don't.
I just want to listen to her music. A lot of it is about being crazy and weird, so of course she's going to say some crazy and weird stuff.
Mm-hmm. It's also a good thing to bring up, Greg, because she's very self-destructive. And I would say Mishima is a pretty self-destructive artist.
Yeah, well, she's one of these artists that, like, people are like, "Did you hear this weird thing she said?" Yeah. If you listen to her music, she's a troubled person.
She's told us for a decade.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give Mike the point there, because Mike so far on the show has not said this baby's pussy tastes like Pepsi Cola.
I was talking about the adult woman, and that's a lyric from one of her songs.
Oh, I thought that was just a thing you knew from your. We don't crack into each other's personal lives either, so.
All right, okay, moving on. Took it too far. Mike, I'm taking a point away from you.
That's fair.
That's on the maybe pile. Mike, where are you going?
I think somebody who's inarguably relevant today and was born in 85. To the point I was surprised, just because she is such a powerhouse force. In my head, a year older than me, they like, you can't be a powerhouse. You must be a real adult. But no, she's in our peer group, but crushes, modeling, twittering, being married to John Legend. I think she is a powerful voice of the generation, is Chrissy Teigen.
Chrissy Teigen.
It is impossible to ignore her. Yeah.
I'm giving it to you. Mike. She's going on the mountain.
Yes.
She's certainly iconic. She is as close, the John Legend Chrissy Teigen couple is as close as any human couple's ever had, heterosexual couple, where the guy might be more attractive than the woman. It's very rare that you see that, but they maybe have done it.
They did it. They went there.
Greg,
yes.
Where are we going?
John Legend. Okay, so that was a good one, Chrissy Teigen. There is another, like, cute, sassy Twitter presence, Anna Kendrick. Anna Kendrick is, like, everybody's fun girlfriend. Everyone wants to hang out with Anna Kendrick, hear her pop off. She's still, like, cute and adorable, but you could see her also falling down a set of stairs. She like
favorite.
She's like, you know, both charming and beautiful, but still somehow manages to have this, like, every woman quality, which is like,
bullshit, right?
If you really inspect that, you're like, well, no, it's just not. It's not every woman. She's, like, extremely talented and attractive.
Yeah, but do you know what it is? She's 5'3". That really gives her that every person mentality.
Yeah.
She's real tiny.
And you could see her falling down like a set of stairs.
Yeah, you've mentioned. Why do you keep mentioning that?
Because she seems like a goof.
Yeah,
I see.
Not
that you actively are rooting for that.
No, like a Chevy Chase, you know, Gerald Ford style fall down a ladder.
Kelsey Grammer fall off a stage.
Fall right off a stage. A Mr. Belvedere
sit right on her
Mr.
nuts.
Belvedere style sit right on her nuts and have to stop filming for a little bit.
Anna Kendrick, this is what we think of you. You're on the mountain. Congratulations. All right, 2 spots in. Mike, can you get the third?
I want to. I don't know.
You do want to, yes.
I do.
That's the point of the segment.
I think in this day and age, I know I'm not the athlete kind of guy, but I feel like we would be remiss for one of the greatest American athletes. His neck is constantly weighed down with all the gold he won, and then he quit because he went, weed is cool, and I don't want to swim all the time. I think Michael Phelps deserves to be talked about.
That guy was born in 85?
Yeah, crazy, right?
Wow.
That limbs that long could be born then.
I guess that's what I was thinking. I don't. When Mike says it sounds stupid. Was that what I was actually
I think
thinking?
that's what you were thinking.
Okay, so not super relevant to 2020, but
No?
I see your point. I'm going to put it on the maybe pile.
He's not even our best swimsman anymore.
But I'm not going to talk about Ryan Lochte. He wasn't born in 1985. I don't think.
Oh, yeah, that rule again. We're really
Greg,
observing
where are we
that one. Okay, so now it's to me again.
Mm-hmm.
This is interesting.
We
Okay.
can hear you typing on Google right now.
Yeah, Let
What
me
should I
say,
say?
born in 1985, enter. I'm going to say Gal. Is it Gadot or Got It?
I think you got it.
Got it.
Oops, sorry.
Hey, what are you doing?
Greg gets 2 points for Gal Gadot.
She made DC movies cool again. She is pretty and really pulled off the Wonder Woman character of like, you know, I come from a small town that's nothing like this, and I think about that line where she like eats ice cream in Paris or whatever, and she like marches back to the guy and she's like, your ancestors are super proud of the job that you do.
I do want to bring up though that with WW84, which I can't believe we had 83 World Wars. Probably moving to 2021. The most 2020 thing that she did was probably be a large part, if not the total captain of the Imagine video.
Oh yeah.
That's very iconic.
Well,
for 2020.
Since quarantine started, she and Chrissy Teigen both kind of got canceled. It's like, if you're a celebrity right now, maybe lay low.
Yeah.
Anna Kendrick, still perfect.
Well, she's just
Anna
making
Kendrick's still
weird
batting 1,000.
Quibi shows with that sex doll, so everybody's like, she's not doing well.
Lars
She-
and the Real Boy.
Yeah.
And for the past couple of weeks, she's been falling downstairs a lot. Don't forget that.
To gain back
Okay,
that
hold
trust.
on. Hold on. In the trailer for her Quibi sex doll show, she falls downstairs. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. So
That's
this
what this is based on.
this is not just a thing that you made up.
Yeah, did it sound like I was repeatedly threatening to push her downstairs or something?
So
Yeah.
she's my neighbor, and I'm gonna get her.
What a creepy energy I must have at all times. That you think that I'm threatening to push a celebrity downstairs.
Okay, Gal Gadot is on the mountain. Greg, you got 2 points for that. Mike accidentally got 1. Mike, there's one spot left.
I'm gonna do one shout out that she's bigger in our group, specifically to a late great friend of ours, but she just only makes good albums. I think one came out earlier this year, if not last year. Carly Rae Jepsen, 85 baby.
Carly Rae Jepsen.
Carly Jepsen.
Carla Rae Jepsen.
Thank you, Bradley Cooper from A Star Is Born.
Wait.
You're just ugly.
She's just fucking Carly.
You're not as pretty as Carly Rae Jepsen. Okay, we're gonna do one. Greg, do you have any more?
Yeah, I got 2 more.
One more.
One of them is a non-starter, so I'm going to give you this guy. I did not know before I saw Hamilton that the character of the king is like so loved, but he is played by Jonathan Groff, who also plays like the real quirky FBI investigator in Mindhunter.
Holden.
Jonathan Mindhunter.
And he's very good, and he was born in 85, and he's really having a moment right now. And seeing Hamilton streaming, it taught me that this guy spits a lot.
Oh yeah, that's why he's
That's
having
like
the
his
moment. People
thing.
are like, spit me right in my face, King George.
Yeah, this guy is really... You think that I'm exaggerating, but it's like the camera's right in his face, and you can see a mouthful of spit come out several times.
Disney.
I've only recently heard about this Hamilton. Do you mean Spit's flow? Like Spit's hip-hop
Yeah.
rap lines?
That's what King George is known for.
Yeah.
Disney wanted to edit it out, and Lin-Manuel Miranda said, "You're not. We will not put on your. Do not do that.
I'll take out the 2 fucks, but
Not
I will
the
never
spit.
take the spit. Mike, one more.
One more. Okay, that's so Raven Simone. She was born in 1985.
That's a good pitch. That is a good pitch. Also born in 85, Cristiano Ronaldo.
Amanda
Who looked-
Seyfried. Are we just shooting stuff out now?
Cristiano
Greg,
Ronaldo
let's
looked...
remember who the host is here.
But let me just say this about him. He looks like a bad guy from an anime about like high schoolers. He seriously
So
is drawn
handsome.
evil. Yeah, he's very handsome, but like in such an austere, sharp way that it's
very
like
sharp
very
brows, very sharp hairline.
yeah. And it's like so unfriendly. I mean, he's very obviously he's attractive, but it's just he looks evil.
You're No Boys Allowed. Rushmore Babies Mountain of 1985 is Chrissy Teigen, Anna Kendrick, Gal Gadot, and Greg. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Oh my God.
And Lana Del Rey. When we come back, more about Mishima.
Well, that is very, very funny. Or very sad. And perhaps now you have something to think about. Or very problematic. And perhaps we have something to think about. But in any event, I'm sure you have some reaction to what you're listening to. So why not check us out on the social media? You can go to Instagram or Twitter and find us at YourPopFilter. Email contacts@YourPopFilter. Hey, everybody. Keep watching them movies.
I want to talk about one of my favorite words with movies. It's the D word. It's desire. I think it's an important one. And I want to talk about what does Mishima desire and what does Paul Schrader sort of desire from us. But first, let's get to Mishima. The character, the human, the man, the real person, the person this biopic is made for or about, what does he actually desire, do we think, based on the snippets of his life and his art that we see?
I think he wants, when he's sitting alone and it's midnight and the kettle is boiling over and he's so immersed because like flowing out of him is just this completely realized world of high drama. And I think what he wants is he wants those moments where he is just alone and that's happening to somehow be like with the rest of humanity at the same time. And he sees that as his words becoming like actions. And if he could start a movement, then he could share in this profound moment he has where he contemplates the Golden Pavilion or where he thinks about the ultimate sacrifice, where he thinks about like the terribleness of beauty. But he doesn't want to be alone when he does it. He wants to be with people, and he can't make that a reality. He can't get that drama. He can't get that those crazy strings playing that you hear in all the novel sections. He can't get that out in the world. It's not a real thing, but he wants it so bad. He wants that drama. He wants that energy.
I just finished the FX show Devs, and so much of it is about how Silicon Valley, these tech god lords, they sort of go crazy and they start thinking of themselves as messiahs and sort of like bigger than humanity. And then watching Mishima, and it's not a typical biopic, but in a lot of ways it is, because it is so much like all of these rock and roller biopics that we've seen before, where you start believing the hype and you start thinking that your words mean more, and you want to sort of like be in control of what people think about you, and then eventually what other people think, period. That it's totally there, and just like it is in Rocket Man about Elton John or anything else.
Yeah, it is. It's said almost more than a lot of other biopics that he wants to be remembered. He wants to go down in flames like the Golden Pavilion. All of his protagonists in his stories, the guy in Kyoto's house, Kyoko's house, talks about that they don't even know that art's a shadow. Stage blood is never enough. Like he's saying, like, I know this isn't enough. It has to be real blood. So he's like, how do I blend the beauty of my words with actual action?
Real quick, Mike, as we go through this, we'll do it. Can you sort of, so Kyoko's house is one of the excerpts that we see. Can you sort of describe it for us?
Yeah, Kyoko's house is about a very vain younger man who's like, my face is beautiful, but my body isn't there. Why can't my body just be my whole face? Who has a weird relationship with his mom, who ends up sleeping with the landlord so his mom doesn't lose her coffee shop, and gets in a weird, like violent BDSM.
She like owns him.
Yeah, he signs a contract.
It's almost like a 50 Shades of Grey thing at first.
Yeah. Not like she manipulates him into like him becoming her slave. She literally has a contract where she owns this kid, right, and keeps his face beautiful, but then destroys his body for him. It looks like razors and punches. Yeah,
she says, your skin's so beautiful, I just had to cut it.
He's like the Golden Pavilion for her. Like, he's so beautiful that she just wants to destroy him. And then I think we get a synthesis then between where he wants to be both the guy who destroys the Golden Pavilion and the Golden Pavilion, or the kid, the attractive kid from the second part. He wants to be both things at the same time, the sacrifice and the sacrificer. And that's
it all comes to this thing where that a lot of the movie talks about in Mishima's real life and his stories of your beauty will be destroyed. Also, you have no control in life. So why don't we kill two birds and take control over how your beauty is destroyed? Instead of just letting old age do it with either making money on it or, by committing suicide. But at least you have some control of saying, I'm not going to leave an old corpse. I'm going to control when and how my beauty is.
And that's shown in Runaway Horses, again, which is the last one in Chapter 3 Action, which is about he's the best fighter in college, like he's the best on sword team, and he quits because he's too good.
He's the best fighter in college.
And the coach is like,
top kendo guy.
You're only thinking about yourself. And this completely fictional guy, gets a private army to start killing anybody who opposes the emperor. Completely fictional. And then when his contact in the army gets transferred, he's like, forget it. Everybody just go home. I'm going to kill myself anyway. And there's a quote in that one that says, if you turn your life into a line of poetry written in a splash of blood, and then he commits seppuku. Like, it's, again, all of this is like, control yourself, flame out hard, James Dean this shit.
But see, then when you you watch that moment in the book, and it's got the strings and everything, and it feels like, and it's on the set, it feels like such an artistic, like, crazy, intense moment. And then they show the moment of Mishima's actually, like, forging his army. And it's like, we're all going to poke a little bit of blood out of our finger. And then he's like, I hope nobody has VD here. And it's just like, his real world is like, he's trying to recreate this, like, intensity that he only experiences in his own fictions.
And, like, part of it, too, is that he's definitely a theater kid. And that's because when we see the flashbacks, he has this, like, crazy stutter, which one of his characters does as well. And then when we get to modern day, there's no stutter, and instead it's like that sort of smarmy, like, like sort of, I say jokes that aren't funny, but people laugh, whether to, like, break the uncomfortability or because, like, we admire you.
The force of his personality at this point.
Right. It's just like, it makes everything he says funny, and he thinks, I've now achieved, like, being a hero. Like, I've done it. I am now a legend in my own book that my real life is.
It's interesting in one of the later flashbacks, because it is like adult Mishima, but it's black and white, which took a second. I was like, where are we? He is talking to a group it's a room full of dudes, and they're arguing about politics and things, and some of them sort of laugh at him, but for the most part, they are screaming at him the whole time, and he is struggling. You can see, like, he is trying to fully become the version of him, like that charismatic guy who can run a room. But this is showing you that reality that he never, I don't know if he ever fully does it. It is the power of his art gets him, he's so mad that it's his art that gets him respect and not his speech, it feels like, throughout the movie.
Yeah.
But the only time that he gets the reaction that he wants is when he's surrounded by, and the movie uses this word a lot, acolytes. And if it's just normal ass people, and I don't know, like, this does ring true today with some of our leaders, if it's just normal ass people voicing their opinion just based on the words that you're saying, they're like, that's not funny and it's stupid. Are you insane?
It's weird that it's not enough for him just to be like a teacher. It's a shame because the moments where he is profoundly, purely happy, it's just him and his boys, and they're all hanging out, and they just did a good march, or they just did some, like, really cool tumbles, and he that's perfection for him. There's no reason why they couldn't go do marching and talk about how much they love the emperor. It's just he is so afraid, I guess, of this slow, like, descent into death, that he wants to do something really crazy, but it's really, more than anything else, he just wants to die before, I guess, things get bad.
He gets old.
Yeah, it's before it gets bad. It's like before the wool is taken, like, people realize he is not his art. But, like, each of the chapters is what? Beauty, art, action, and then harmony of pen and sword. And in each one, he's saying, you can't. Words deceive one way, and actions aren't deceitful, but you can't. People don't take it seriously. Like, and so the harmony of pen and sword is he's saying death is the only thing that combines art and action, because for men, beauty is death, and that's artistic. Like, it's all. I think the movie is great, and he is a fascinating character. But what emo boy theater kid bullshit.
But, like, that's another thing about these types of people, whether you want to call them theater kids or messiahs, is I have spent my life philosophizing about what the rules are. I've accepted them, and now I'm going to break them. They don't apply to me, though. I'm going to be able to go out there and convince these people with the pen, that like words and actions can, live together or whatever. And his face, like, it's heartbreaking when he realizes that, no, bro, it's just not going to happen for you.
See, I don't know if he actually expects it to work, though, because in his own story, like, the guy's plan, they know for sure it's not going to work. Basically, it amounts to just stabbing one rich guy. And his whole plan, Mishima's plan, was to go deliver this speech and then, commit ritualistic suicide. So I feel like he knew already that it wasn't going to work, and that makes it even more sort of like maybe what Mike said, drama kid. Like, you knew this wasn't like, this plan was nothing. It was never going to come to anything. It was never going to change anybody's mind or end any differently than it did. It was, I honestly, with so much of the movie being really high flung, beautiful, artistic shots and everything, most of this thing is really embarrassing. It's people tripping and falling over. Everyone's like Anna Kendrick. Everything is like a set of stairs,
falling over couches.
Yeah, but like it's not honorable. Like there's one part where a guy gets like his hand sliced with a sword, and the look on his face is just like, did you just fucking slice me with a sword?
Ow.
And it's all such a charade, and it's all so empty and hollow.
You can see that on the non-emperor, who's the guy in charge, when he's tied to the chair.
The general.
The general, like,
Rise
we just think that seppuku is like this very common thing that happens every day in this culture, and he's tied in the chair being like, don't do this, dude. Even though you attacked me, don't kill yourself.
Earlier in the movie, Mishima turns to one of his guys and he's like, hey, if the general tries to commit seppuku, don't let him, because it's my day. And it's like, did you see that guy? He's a businessman. He's like, I mean, obviously he is in the army, but he's basically just like a mid-level functionary. That guy's not going to commit ritual suicide.
And he even, like, that guy doesn't take any of it seriously, because when they first wrap, like, a garrote around his neck to start tying him to a chair, he's just like, are you guys joking? Like, they are being violent with him.
Is this
just
a drill?
This is weird. You guys are being wacky.
This is such a good, realistic stage show, but I would like the stage show to be over, please. This is too accurate for me.
And in a weird way, in those moments, the movie is like, isn't this guy pathetic? Like, he's just letting himself be tied up. This is supposed to be like, Mishima's whole point is we don't have like a warrior spirit anymore. And it's like, well, maybe it's a good idea to have a little bit of a warrior spirit and not just let people like wrap a rope around your neck while you go like, are you guys being serious?
But it is interesting to think about if Stephen King and a bunch of like dudes rolled in and like start doing it, you're like, this is funny. Like, well, I don't know what's going on at all. Like, it is, but relating him to that puts it in such a funnier perspective. Like, yeah, I'm like, okay, what horror story are we in now, Stephen?
That is a very real thing. People will think something going on is a joke very late into it, just as like a defense mechanism.
I think us watching this movie is still a prank on me, and I don't know when you guys are going to jump out of the closet. It's so strange to watch a movie with a protagonist that is an artist and homosexual and philosophical and deep feeling and complex, and a fucking straight up conservative.
Yeah.
Like that, none of that like gels with the type of movies that we watch today. Where like you really just don't get conservatives unless they are super, super evil.
And also for America, when we say conservative, we mean like people who had the values of like 50 years ago. He's a conservative in the sense he has values of like 1,000 years ago, dude.
We have to take a break, but when we come back, we are going to probably, maybe, I don't know. It's been slim pickings recently. Maybe get somebody into the Pop Filter Hall of Fame.
Welcome to the Pop Filter Hall of Fame.
That's right, gentlemen. We are now in the hallowed halls of the Pop Filter Hall of Fame, where such recent inductees have the first name Michael and the last name Jordan. Do you guys think that'll ever happen again, where two similar named people will get in at the same time?
I think if it lines up, we should do it.
Okay.
Even if we don't like them.
If we get the chance. These halls are only technically hallowed, right? They're not literally hallowed, because I shouldn't be here if they are.
Yeah, I mean, witches and vampires cannot stand on the ground here.
You know what? I'll stand
They
out
can
here
only
and
sit?
shout
Unrelated.
Yeah, it's not about anything. I just like being outside now since Corona and everything.
Greg, going first gives you almost no advantage. In fact, I think it's a disadvantage. So, Mike, you're up first as the champion. Who do you think should be in the Pop Filter Hall of Fame?
When I was thinking about this, it is so shocking this person is not in the Hall of Fame that I'm constantly worried they are already, and I just can't find it on the walls or in their statues.
Tina Fey is in the Hall of Fame.
I know for a fact Tina Fey is in it. I won't be burnt again by Tina.
Yeah.
But I think for not just who we are, for the kinds of nerdy kids we were, for the kinds of film lovers we are, and for the kind of movie we currently make, and everybody who makes movies, we talk about him. He is so good that he doesn't even have to make his own movies, a la Goonies. It's bananas that the famous hat wearer himself, Steven Spielberg, is not in the Hall of Fame.
Oh, well, yeah, I thought we just weren't going to do, like, blatantly obvious, of course, would be in the Hall of Fame people. But no, well, I'll write him down.
He's
We'll just
so
pencil
good
that
that
one
he
in.
won't be voted in. This is crazy. I'm just bad at this game, I guess.
Well, I mean, Martin Scorsese, Alfred Hitchcock, there's a lot of people. I thought this was personal to us. Do you think that the three of us discovered Steven Spielberg?
I think we
Esteban
discovered Steven
Spielberg?
Spielberg. Yeah, not like Michael Jordan, that little cult hero. You're right.
I was going to say our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ.
That's not bad. Okay, so, Mike, top 3 Steven Spielberg movies?
My top 3 Steven Spielberg movies right now: Greyhound.
Yeah.
What's the other
Okay.
World War II ones?
Greyhound 2, Greyhound 3.
2, Greyhound 3.
Greg.
Goonies.
I
Can you
guess
beat
I
that?
would say top Spielberg movie would probably be E.T.
Okay.
And then
I'm going to give you a point if it matches with my top 3.
okay.
Wait,
And
so a point for
then
each one that matches?
Yep.
Next would be Schindler's List.
Uh-huh.
Okay, no point there. That's good. And I don't know.
Am I allowed to hop in here?
Yeah, you jump in there, dude.
Jaws, Jurassic Park.
Oh god.
Mike.
Okay, you guys are missing 2 of my top 3. There's 2 more.
Wait.
Because Jaws was the one that made it, right?
It's Jaws, E.T. I have 4 in my top 3, Mike. Do you want to
Yeah, that's what I was. Thank you for knowing what I was confused about. Okay, so there's
We
like a
submit.
pairing movie.
You submit?
We submit.
Ryan.
It's Raiders and Close Encounters. Greg,
Yes.
Steven Spielberg has been put on the table,
Yeah.
and then we covered him with sushi.
Okay.
Who would you like to nominate?
I almost thought Mike had stolen mine because I had to check several times to see if this person is in the Pop Filter Hall of Fame, and it's going to be ridiculous if we put this person in, but I want to anyway. I have been going back and reading old comics, but not like super old, from like 10 years ago, because when you're not in the flow anymore. And I have started reading Spider-Gwen, and she crosses paths with Miles Morales, and I was like, man, I've never actually read that many Miles Morales comics. And Miles Morales is so cool, you guys. It's such a hard thing to do, to have to like swap out who the main character is in a comic, and I know that it hasn't turned out that like only Miles Morales is Spider-Man.
Not just the main character, the single greatest fictional character in the history of humanity. And Miles Morales had to take that spot.
And he really does it very effectively. He's like a better Spider-Man. He's a more interesting character, and he's funny, and his life is more interesting than Peter Parker's life is. It's weird. Peter Parker has not been in many of the Miles Morales comic books I've read, and you don't like miss him. It's just Miles Morales really at this point feels way more like Spider-Man than Peter Parker does.
I mean, it helps out that Peter Parker died and Miles came in a non-616 situation where everybody can sort of relax about it, you know, and be like, oh, but it's not real. Like
this
these
isn't
other,
real Spider-Man.
like this other thing is real. But still, even that being said, like Bendis has done the best Peter Parker writing of probably my lifetime with Ultimate Spider-Man, and then to come in and like double down on that with Miles Morales was very, very impressive.
A different kind of funny, nervous kid.
Maybe Bendis is.
Yeah.
Huh?
I said a different kind of funny, nervous kid. Like, it's not like he's definitely in the vein of Spider People, of the kind of, but he has his own voice than Peter.
Also,
But
he's
when-
really fun to watch in, like, I don't really, like, follow, like, the big things that are going on in Marvel, but he will kind of, like, stand and talk to the other superheroes that are, like, his age. And it's so funny to, like, Marvel has done a very good job of establishing a second tier, or like a younger group of superheroes that are so interesting. Him and Ms. Marvel and Gwen Stacy. Like, the kids table at Marvel right now is actually the way more interesting place, but it's fun to watch it in the comics be the kids table, you know?
I wish there was a way at Marvel to have Miles Morales have like electric powers, you know, or speed powers, and not sort of have every single new character be a version of an older character.
Yeah.
But that's just not where the money flows. Like,
The Venom strike is kind of like electric powers.
That is true, yeah. And invisibility on top of that.
Invisibility's dope.
I can't wait for the video game for PS5 because you can just be invisible. I'm going to do that all the time. Go into girls' locker rooms. All right.
Nope. That's
Red
a real
flag.
85 energy.
That's a red flag.
I can't believe that my nominee wasn't in the Hall of Fame. I looked over and over and over again. But
That's what we're doing now.
when I think about the kind of people that we are, the kind of people that, like, not just that when we were kids together, all with the same heads but very smaller bodies, who was our role model? And then it was somebody who, like, taught us that being a doctor was cool. And then as we grew up and we got big, we got famous, there was somebody who gave us the exact response of what you say when you did get big.
Oh, now Zoidberg is big, huh?
My nominee is Dr. Zoidberg, and I can't believe he's not in the Pop Filter Hall of Fame.
For context, for those of you who don't remember, in that episode, there is a big rampaging monster. And so they use a, like, enlargement ray to make Zoidberg big. And he says that instantly. As soon as he's big, he says, now Zoidberg's big, and he just runs off in the other direction, also destroying the town. It's never explained why. It's just once they made him big, he was like, yep, now I'm gonna fucking mess stuff up.
So now Zoidberg is big, huh?
The first thing he did was fight Chase Bank to get rid of his debts,
He's
and
the
then
hero of
he
the
just ran
people.
away. He ran away with his sandals and his, like, doctor apron on.
It's Dr.
Um,
Apron.
I laugh literally every time he walks into the scene and he does the scuttling.
Uh-huh.
Like, I never got over that.
Well, that is humorous.
I think he is. I think he's a champion of comedy. I do not think that we would be the people that we are if it wasn't for one Dr. Zoidberg. And I'm going to put him up against these two and win because I'm the host.
And that's how it works.
We'll see what happens. All right, so my pick was Dr. Zoidberg. Mike's was Steven Spielberg. A lot of Bergs up here. And Greg was Miles Morales.
Berg.
Okay, so we're going to start the vote with Steven Spielberg. Let's keep in mind, gentlemen, you always forget that we have 2 votes. We only each have 2 votes for all 3 of the people, and it must be unanimous for them to get in.
I've been hoarding my votes. I didn't vote the last 2, so I actually have 4 votes this time.
Greg,
Yes.
do you think that Steven Spielberg? Do you think that Steven Spielberg should get in?
I say yes, and if not him, then his cheap Mexican non-union replacement, Senor Spielbergo. Yeah, I mean, remember 85 is the year that the Adventure Show was on, or what was it called? Crazy Tales, the Steven Spielberg,
Astounding Tales?
Amazing Stories.
which is still the most astounding story of all, is that show did not work. It had a bunch of celebrity, but yeah, who would we be without Steven Spielberg?
Okay, Mike,
Yes.
I'm torn.
Yeah,
This
Natalie Imbruglia.
This seems like such a cheat to me, but I guess I'll say yes. Maybe next week we can have, like, Barack Obama.
I think it's weird, this notion that there is something above the Hall of Fame, which is a class of
Yeah.
people that we're not supposed to.
This was Mike's pitch. This is how Mike pitched the Hall of Fame. Is that it's people who aren't in typical Hall of
But
Fame.
you
Yeah.
broke it, and Michael Jordan's in it, so now there's no rules.
Michael Jordan's in the movie Hall of Fame. You dumb
This is the
dipshit.
Everything Hall of Fame.
I think it's us. I think that it's what
You know what?
makes.
I'm taking my vote back. He's not getting in.
Oh,
You can't do that. You wrote it down.
Oh, really? What are the rules? How are the rules that I can't take it back?
Yeah, he could really do whatever he wants. This is terrible. Well, you know what? We'll censure you. I vote to censure him.
Yeah.
Do you vote, Mike?
I vote censured. I vote
Yeah,
to
you're
look up what
so
censure
censure.
means.
You're censured, Ryan.
It means you ask me like where I live and how old I am.
It takes like 5 minutes. You should do it.
It means we're not going to do anything. That's what it means.
All right. Next up is Miles Morales. Mike, where are you going?
Yes.
Greg?
Miles Morales is so cool. Yes, a million times.
Son of a bitch.
Greg.
Yeah.
Mike.
Congratulations to Steven Spielberg and Miles Morales, and no congratulations to you two fucking butt nuggets for knowing Dr. Zoidberg and cheating. Greg, I didn't think you cheated, but I just want to throw that in there.
Greg. Mike.
I did. I'm sorry that we're not going to see the Zoidberg exhibit.
He's
that
massive.
part. Yeah, that was the first thing when you pitched it. The first thing I thought was, oh God, I don't think I'm going to vote for him, and that means I'm not going to get to see the cool statue.
And just so you know, there is a one exhibit that has Jeff Goldblum as Ian Malcolm, and that exhibit now stands for Pop Filter Hall of Famer Jeff Goldblum, Pop Filter Hall of Famer Jurassic Park, Pop Filter Hall of Famer Michael Crichton, and Pop Filter Hall of Famer Steven Spielberg. So that is a lot of weight there. And then Miles Morales, you will get your bust soon. When we come back, more about Mishima. Hey guys, real quick before we get back to the rest of the show, I just wanted to tell you about yourpopfilter.com. Go to that website to get everything that is Pop Filter, all of our podcasts, all of our articles, all of our secrets. Everything is on yourpopfilter.com. While you're there, go to yourpopfilter.com/Amazon. And if you make that your new Amazon bookmark, then you can help Amazon less and us more. And isn't that what we all want to do in the world? Some of those podcasts that you can get on the website or in Apple Podcasts or Stitcher or wherever you get your shows include the Superhero Hour, where Cassie, Mike, and I discuss every single TV show based on a comic book, and the OCD, where Mike and I discuss every episode of the OCD. And then, of course, Movie of the Year, where Greg, Mike, and I try to figure out what is the single greatest movie of any given year. So make sure you're downloading all of those shows. Leave a review, leave a star rating, leave a podcast. If you have an idea for an episode, just record it and email it to us, and we'll probably put it on the air. Thanks. Bye. Both the text and the subtext of this film, and it's Mishima, in case you forgot from the Hall of Fame segment, are riddled with obvious and obscure references to sex and death. Are the two combined, and how well does the movie explore each one? And hold on. Let me just say, let's start with sex.
Let's start with sex.
Well, it's hard to start with one. Like, it's hard to just do one because, I mean, the very initial thing is, like, when he's a little kid and he sees this image of, like, a martyr. And I'm not even... Do you guys know who that... That wasn't Jesus, right? Had arrows and everything, so...
It was Saint Sebastian, which he then... This was like his... He said, like, I don't know what my hand is doing. Oh no. And now he is masturbating to this picture of this saint who is... He has his arms up like he's hanging from a tree or something, and then he's riddled with arrows.
And did you notice when he was like... Not when he actually stabbed himself, but when he's like doing the movie version where he's got like the sword, when he was kind of like practicing stabbing him, it's that same motion. He's like hunched over and he's like moving his hand up and down in that same like masturbatory motion.
And there's a photo shoot. Like once he gets famous, when you get famous, you have to go on photo shoots. I think that becomes your entire life. And they do that same tableau. Like he poses like Saint Sebastian. Everybody's like, all right, if you want to do this. And he's like, no, I want to do this.
All the
me.
way.
And that same Saint Sebastian is flashed again when he says the line, like, women can chase beauty, but when men chase beauty, it's only death. And it just, like, Fight Club style, it's just like, boom, remember that picture?
This connects to this thing right here.
I love when movies help you out like that.
Yeah, like, and then that picture is, like, recreated several times through the imagery. That is, like, a very explicit version, but also when he first gets cut in Kyoko's house, when she's like bathing his body and his like smooth skin, she cuts it with a razor. She cuts him like in the side, kind of in like a Christ-like area where he got stabbed with the spear, and that's like a very like pietà, his position, both in that scene and in the Saint Sebastian painting, has like that feeling of Christ being taken off the cross.
everyone always talks about those nails through the hands and the crown of thorns, but not ate people talk about that spear right through the fucking side.
Right in the side.
Yeah,
The guy
and
who
then-
like can't watch it anymore. He's just like, oh.
But it seems like it's hard to separate the two, and it reminded me of almost like a Freudian interpretation, where what he's really seeking is the oblivion that is offered in the desire for sex and then the desire for death. And he just has combined both of those things. I think they're usually seen as kind of like being oppositional, but for him, they're the same. He wants to just cease, either sexually or his actual life.
So it's not about what he desires; it's about the destruction of desire, which is that's always such like a destructive path for any protagonist. Like if that's what you're gonna set out on, you're gonna fail, and it's probably gonna end in both.
And it is because he sees beauty in sex and beauty in death, and the whole thing is beauty too powerful and overwhelming. That's why in the Golden Pavilion, the stuttering guy, when he gets a chance to have sex, the Golden Pavilion zooms in way back, so like her naked breasts and the Golden Pavilion are the same. This is too overwhelming beautiful. So he burns the Golden Pavilion down.
And because he can't there is something to him about beauty that taunts the brief existence of man. Beauty being eternal is like an insult towards the temporary nature of man.
But I also think it's too much focus on beauty. Like the girl that who's saying like, no, I don't care that you stutter. We about to have sex, and he freaks out like he can't do it. He, is overcome with all the stuff, and she's like, dude, stop caring about beauty so much. Like at a certain point, you do have to there has to be some action. You do have to live your life. Well,
that's the thing. Like if you're overwhelmed by beauty, there's a naked chick right here, man. Like you are so missing the moment because of like this eternal idea of beauty.
Mm-hmm.
It's Ricky Fitz. It's Thora Birch saying, dude, I will have sex with you. I think you're a hot nerd. And him saying, no, look at that plastic bag floating around.
Yeah, it's the obsession with the philosophy of things. And it's saying, this person is always like, aren't I better? And there's definitely that vibe from young Mishima throughout. He's like, oh, these people don't like me. I don't need friends because they are less than. But it's a fear. I just like thinking about it, but it's a fear of actual action, which is the whole movie. He's like, I'm good with words, but fuck, I'm not great at doing things.
And yeah, I mean, like that's the plight of so many artists is that like there's this, there's hesitation of, like you're frozen in place trying to find perfection instead of being like, this is cool, this is B+, this is all right. You just like you're so overwhelmed and you're overwhelmed and you're still looking for the perfect thought or the perfect word or whatever.
That's the ultimate tragedy, I think, of this story is that he begins to hate the thing that he is like exceptional at.
Yeah,
right.
And so much of the movie is a meditation on the fact that he hates the one thing that he does better than almost anyone who's ever lived. And man, that is just a way to drive yourself absolutely crazy. And I guess it does. It leads to his destruction because he began to be so comfortable with words that he just absolutely hated them. And he wanted something that to be like just to be anything different. But then his great ability to craft language. And as someone who like has not written one book, to hear someone who's written like 50 be like, all I'm good at is writing books. Well, that's a good thing to be good at, though.
Yeah. All I'm good at is nothing. So
yeah.
At least you got that thing. But yeah, like I think the other thing too is just never being able to see this is a common thing in stories about any sort of artist is it's hard for us to see the real Mishima because it's hard for him. You know, and so it's always performative at all times, and then you just get lost, and then you go a little insane because when he is in front of a group of people, when he's cracking jokes and like everybody's laughing, that he likes that, but he knows it's performative, and then you sort of forget what performative isn't, and then where do you go from there?
And I mean, like, I guess the only time I felt like he wasn't being performative was those moments we talked about earlier, where he's just sitting around with his squad, but
that's a squad of friends that he hired to be his friend.
That's true. Yeah,
he's definitely playing the role of like wise military leader. It took me so much in the movie to like, wait, he has no actual training. Like, he bails out. Like, he's like, I thought I wanted to die for honor, but I pretended to have TB.
That's so crazy. Like, he never got over that he did that, obviously. Yeah. Like, that was just... And I guess that one of the major points of the movie is that these things happen to us when we're young and we never get over them. And he's still probably, like, 17, 18 at that time. But knowing where he ends up in his life, to see him, like lie just so that he doesn't have to do the thing that then he spends the rest of his life kind of like trying to make up for.
Go ahead, Mike.
I was gonna say, just thinking about when he was alive and the fact that he 95% was gay, like we're pretty sure. So literally everything is a performance because he can't be true to himself. Like
Right.
early
Yeah.
on when he's a kid, that he goes to the theater and he's like, oh, the stage is beautiful because men are women. And so I can openly look at that and say, look how beautiful it is. Like, so everything is a performance at all times. So I think that really crushes his reality.
I mean,
I
as
feel
much
like
as this is a destruction of the artist brain, like how it's so hard to live as an artist, it's also, how terrible life is when you force yourself to remain in the closet. That's everybody faking. The one scene that I can think of where he does seem happy, maybe not happy but comfortable, is it's black and white, but it's the adult actor. And he's in what seems to be like a gay bar, and he's watching two guys dance as he sits at the table, and he gets to be just the observer and feel like this is his place. And he's forgetting for 1 second as he takes a drink that he can never tell anybody about this experience. He has to watch it, like he has to go out the back door so nobody sees him because he's a celebrity. But right here in this moment, watching two guys dance together, that might be it. That might be the only moment of the movie.
Oh.
Damn.
Unless you guys can think of something else.
No. I was just thinking about how heavy and sad it is.
And then it's interesting that the legacy of the movie then is that he had written a couple of books that explored homosexuality, and one of them was like sort of the centerpiece of what his family didn't want included in the story. So that feels like just another layer of silencing him and of forcing him to be something he wasn't. Like he did find a way to articulate this part of himself, and then it gets cut out of this movie that is like striving to be like so to the very core truthful, and then we're sort of denied that opportunity. Although, again, as we said in the intro, the movie sets up that this is a homosexual person pretty obviously, and kind of takes that like for granted. A lot of this movie you can't understand if you don't see him as like you said, 95% gay. I mean, he does get married obviously and have kids, but that's
which there's literally no mention of.
Yeah, right. So that means something right there, and that's just a form of being in the closet, right? Like you have to take it to that extreme, otherwise people will sort of figure it out.
But it's so crazy though that he had this life of all these masks and not a lot of personal truth, and then his legacy as well is lies and hiding that truth. Like that's probably not what he wanted if he thought about it.
It feels like the project still has one more like phase. Like someone else has to come along now and tell the last part of the story, which is the part that kind of foregrounds his homosexuality. Because this movie brings it up, but then I feel like doesn't engage with how much of an explanation it might be for certain things.
Right.
It feels like ultimately the movie kind of like brings it up, and then in the second half, it just doesn't get a lot of real estate. And so I would kind of wonder if somebody else could come along and maybe connect some more of the dots between, what a life, like you said, having to lie constantly, what that does to you and everything.
Well, it's funny because this movie, like we said earlier, asks a lot of questions, gives no answers. So like, there's like other than that Saint Sebastian thing, which only in talking to you guys did I realize how often that is coming up. Like it feels like there's not a lot of dots, at least on first viewing. There's not a lot of dots connecting.
It's one of those movies.
Like, figure it out.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those movies where I think Paul Schrader would say you have to see it twice because you don't know the significance of things that happen early in the movie without understanding what happens at the end. Yeah. I was able to squeeze in another viewing, and so a lot of those connections between the imagery of like the first act and the imagery of the third act, it helps. If you remember in the first act what to look out for, then you're like, oh yeah, okay, I see how that connects.
We also have to consider, too, we haven't done a lot of 1985 talk about this movie, but when you're making a movie in 85 about what happened in the 50s, it's a lot different than a 2020 movie. Like, in a movie that comes out in 2020, a character will just be gay, and it won't be a character trait or even a plot line. They just are. And so we pick up on these things subconsciously at this point, and it doesn't faze us at all, whereas this guy being homosexual, like, is very obvious to us, but I can see theater, like, people coming out of the theater, let's say they saw it in a theater, and being shocked that this guy was gay throughout the entire movie, even though all of the imagery and fingers point to it.
He got so angry when his friend said that he was flabby. I guess we don't like it when our buddies tell us the truth.
All right, gentlemen, it's speed round time. What was the is this, at the end of the movie, is this the worst planned political maneuver in history?
Gotta be. Best case scenario is he like gets everyone on that military base to agree with him, and I don't see how that could possibly happen. No. Still, somebody else is just going to come in and be like, "You're all under arrest." Yeah, I don't know what you're doing.
It's one regiment. Like, it looks like maybe a couple hundred dudes max.
Or maybe go even crazier than that. Say he restores the emperor to power through this action. That's a terrible idea. That this guy is not equipped to lead Japan because he has a ceremonial position, and so it would be like making a reality TV show host.
His strategy was like, no, what are you talking about? His strategy was along the same lines. Now my analogy is not going to be as good, but the guy when I went to college, there'd be a guy who came up with a sign and said like, "Jesus rules, you're all going to hell," and if it'd be like everybody on the college is like, "Oh my God, he's right," and then we all just follow this person, and that person was like, "Oh, I am not equipped for that. No,
I don't have a follow up."
Yeah,
I guess the attractive of you will be my wives.
A dog chasing a car.
The movie has been called too cold and too respectful. Is this true? And if so, is that part of it?
Yeah, I don't know if it's too respectful because, like, most biopics they're like, look what a piece of shit Johnny Cash is, but look how charismatic and great he is. And this movie is like, he was a very good writer. But I don't know if the movie's like, look how great he is. I think I have a bone to pick with how respectful it looks.
It's writing over person.
He's pathetic.
I think the movie is about like, how could somebody have such like transformative, beautiful, wonderful ideas, and then when applying those ideas to his actual own life, do the stupidest, like, It's not just that this is like a bad idea or you shouldn't commit suicide or anything like that. It's like, this is a stupid, profoundly stupid idea that a brilliant, delicate, wonderful person came up with and then tried to carry out. And it's such a tragedy. It's just the dumbest thing I've ever heard of in my entire life.
I think when people say that, I think that they're used to scene 12 flows into scene 13, flows into scene 14, and we get to see every transition throughout the movie. As opposed to this, which just sort of like, it puts it all out there. And it's a purposeful order, but it's not what we're used to. And then you have to watch the movie, feel the movie, and then think about the movie and say like, oh shit, that was in depth, even though it wasn't as traditional as we think stories should be told.
Yeah, I guess cold comes from that. Like, we don't see the character of Mishima emoting often. His emotion does come out through the story parts. That's like where... It's the musical rules.
Yeah.
Once the character is going to emote too hard, they just break into crazy staging.
I mean, with the most profound, one of the most profound emotional things that happens to him is when his boyfriend or whatever insults him, and his response to that all occurs like beneath the surface of his face. The actor does a wonderful job with it, but there's not a big explosive, like, emotional act because that's just not within his personality.
First two names we see are Francis Ford Coppola and George Lucas. Did that change your viewing experience, and what?
That's how it changed my viewing experience. It just started off with a like, wait, what are we doing?
How and why? Just money? Because they had pull? Like, it does feel like both of them, especially at this time, are like, this guy's making a movie we wish we could still make, but we're a little too trapped.
I do agree with that. Yeah, I think that at this point, Paul Schrader, for their, like, there was this whole troupe, Scorsese and Coppola and Lucas and Pop Filter Hall of Famer Steven Spielberg and Brian De Palma, and they all hung out. And Lucas and Coppola had achieved far more commercial success than Martin Scorsese. Mm-hmm. But Scorsese had this guy, Paul Schrader, write for him Taxi Driver and Raging Bull. And they were like, I want a piece of that. But I don't want to direct this script. Like, I'm not that ballsy. I'll just put up the money instead of saying...
Which, thank fucking God. Could you imagine if George Lucas made this movie?
And then these George cute Lucas little bears walk through.
What role does humor and joking around play? I think we sort of got to this, but in this mostly serious movie.
I thought it was really strange. Or not strange. I thought it was very interesting how often he would break the tension of these really emotional moments that he himself had created, Mishima, by making a weird little joke about it.
Mhm.
And it's because he doesn't really feel comfortable with people. So he doesn't know how to create and maintain tension. He has to break it.
That's a gentle form of manipulation too. Like, oh, look at me solving the situation that I caused.
Yeah.
And that they all like the way most people are laughing is the way when your manager makes a joke. You're like, I think I have to here because it will be more awkward to not laugh.
Part of my job is to laugh at your joke.
Does the story of Mishima at all remind you of the story of Juice WRLD, who Greg once said to me, did anyone listen to any of his fucking lyrics when he was alive?
Yeah. Juice WRLD was that SoundCloud rapper who recently died of a drug overdose and whose every song is like, I am in so much pain that all I know how to do is do drugs right up to the point where I die. And I'm going to die one day, and I hope I die. And then, like, one day, I went on Twitter, and they were like, yeah, Juice WRLD died just the way he said he was going to. That's an apt comparison because obviously this guy's books were like, I'm going to do something crazy because action is needed, and I want to go flaming out. And it's like, oh, he did it. He did the thing he was always telling us about.
But, like, we talked about this earlier, but I think this is part of Paul Schrader's point of, like, listen to the lyrics. Know that they're fiction. Know that they're not. It's not 100%. You know, like, you can see the strings being pulled. You can see the couches, the furniture being moved on the track. But there's also a lot of truth here, you know. And I think it's fun to parcel out what is real and what is not. Not everybody likes being on a podcast, I guess. But also, you got to take some of this shit seriously.
Well, then, should we all be worried about Paul Schrader between this Raging Bull, Taxi Driver, and First Reformed? Like, should we be worried that he's also going to go out hard?
Yeah, specifically this and First Reformed, man. Like, what is this guy going to do?
What I heard is that he's becoming some sort of super Skrull, where each one of his limbs is, like, one of those movies. And I don't want to fight that guy. Which of the three of us would be the best at having our own private army?
Mike?
Yes?
That's I'm ringing in, and that's my answer.
No,
Why
I think it'd be
would you-
Ryan.
Mike, you are third place for sure.
That's insane.
What makes you think that you would be good at it?
I can translate better to normies than you guys can, and weirdos don't do it in private. You need that normie translator.
That's a good point.
No, I think Ryan is the natural leader among us, and I think
Oh my goodness.
more than all that Mishima really had was he was able to like kind of like play that role of leader to them.
Shit, it's about to get insulting.
It almost didn't matter what he said. This movie also kind of reminded me of The Master, because like it's just when you have a charismatic figure in both his novel and in his real life, at some point it's like this thing isn't going to do our actions aren't going to have any results. And he says that to his acolytes, and his acolytes are like, yeah, let's do it anyway. So it could have been anything.
Yeah.
Like
Nobody will ever watch this web series. Let's just, I don't know, devote our lives and every weekend for years.
First 5 minutes of this movie, it said he had his own personal army. I was like, hell yeah.
Yeah, dude.
And then by the end, I was like, oh no, don't. If you form one, that's not good for you.
It sounds cool when you say personal army, but then when you're standing in a ballroom to announce your new uniforms, then it's like, okay, wait, this might be cheesy as shit.
Yeah.
The other problem too is like, where do you keep your personal army?
And your personal sleeveys?
That's Greg. Greg
I
got
said it,
that.
Ryan. I said it, Ryan. Or in Portland.
Topical.
Is this the final straw? Will you ever be able to watch a traditional biopic again?
No, I mean, we all go home during the holidays.
We all go home to our wives.
Have to hang out with those family members, so you'll go see that. But other than that, no.
I do like the trend where they'll just show a snippet of a life, but you can't do the thing anymore where you try to like run through an entire life in 2 hours and then also give it meaning and have it like have narrative arcs and everything. This is a good way to do it though. Like show what they said about things every once in a while.
What I would do, because this Paul Schrader book is all about slow cinema, what I would do is I would film it in real time and then fast forward it so it's 2 hours. I would reverse that slow cinema thing and just we'll sit here for 2 hours and watch 60 years go by.
Just Benny Hilling.
What kind of soundtrack would you put on that, Ryan?
I would probably put... That is the end of Speed Round. When we come back, let's give this movie awards. By the way, guys, Paul Schrader has been nominated for 1 Academy Award. He has won 0. He wrote Taxi Driver. He wrote Raging Bull. Do you know what he was nominated for?
I don't know.
No.
It's First Reformed. It took till 2018 for him to get nominated for one single Oscar. Definitely not nominated for Mishima. When we come back, let's hand some awards to this movie.
Thank you for listening and for your support. If you want to support us more directly, go over to patreon.com/yourpopfilter. Pick a tier, shed a tier, get some extra stuff. There's extra shows, extra long shows. You can make Ryan draw you pictures, make me write you a poem. There's all kinds of stuff over there. You can even get a shirt off our very own backs. That's patreon.com/yourpopfilter. We also want to say thank you to Shady Monk for providing all the tunes you hear on this show. Check him out on Spotify, Bandcamp, SoundCloud, wherever the kids get their music that I'm too old to know. Check out Shady Monk. Back to you, Greg.
All right, gentlemen, the only thing that we know about these awards is that Mishima will win all 5. Other than that, we got to see what will happen. Our first award, our first Moody, is that what they're called?
Moody's, yeah. Moody for your booty.
Moody for your booty is most relatable moments. Greg, what did you find to be the most relatable moment?
I had a stutter when I was a kid, and I thought the actor did a really good job of portraying how much you try to get the word out, but just absolutely can't, and how frustrating that is. So in the first part, the guy from the Golden Pavilion that has the stutter.
I've been around a lot of people who have actual stutters, and you think that it's just Porky Pig. Like you stumble a little bit, and then you just choose a new word. But it's really, really hard for them to talk. Like it is.
It's like choking a little bit.
Nonstop uphill battle.
Yeah, it's like choking a little bit, or like struggling to breathe or something, or like almost like a spasm. You know, you just can't get like the machinery of your mouth to run smoothly.
The machinery. How do you get? How do you? Do you
I
train
did.
it out? Is there exercises?
I
or
did
what?
speech therapy. So when I was a kid, I got to leave the class to sometimes go to speech therapy, and sometimes I got to leave the class to go to reading therapy. I was a double threat.
Mike, what was the most relatable moment for you?
There also early on, there's the flashback to he's a little older now. He's finally at school with other kids, but they don't like him, and they're playing like King of the Mountain on the fence, and he plays and they make fun of him, and he wins, but they still make fun of him, and then run away. And succeeding and then still getting mocked is my childhood for sure. The rare moments you win, it does not matter.
That sounds like a very specific Mike one.
Fucking shit, gentlemen.
Greg, Mike.
I have no choice but to reward both of your childhood points for that one.
Yay, it was worth it.
Next one, Mike, is Best Chapter, which I find like just an absolutely disgusting way to, analyze movies like this. But hey, it's an award. So Chapter 1, Chapter 2, Chapter 3, Chapter 4, those are the nominees.
And the winner is...
What do you think was the best?
I think Chapter 2, Art, it's where in the present he tells his soldiers they can't commit seppuku. They can't let the general commit seppuku. It's only his seppuku. So it's the first hint like, oh, this guy might suck. And it also has the line, I thought I was a symbol of times, a kamikaze for beauty, but I was only a boy who wrote bad poetry. So a lot of great stuff. And then in Kyoko's house, I think was a dope story.
That could seriously
How is that
be...
not your most relatable moment?
That could be a Fall Out Boy lyric.
I know.
I thought it was
or a
comic.
title of a song.
Oh.
All right, but I think the chapters are mostly marked by the book excerpts, right? So we're going with Kyoko's house?
Kyoko's house.
Yeah.
Greg, where are we going?
Mine was Runaway Horses, because I felt like there's the crystallization of like everything that had happened that you could see in that, and then a big element of it being like, and it's not going to work. I do have a major question about the Runaway Horses part, which is he gets caught and then seems like he's in jail, and then in the very next scene he's out and he goes and stabs the rich guy, and I'm not sure how he got out, but that whole part, because I feel like it does such a good job of getting you prepared for the ending of the movie.
Yeah, I don't know, but other than these are excerpts, and you just decided not to include a part.
Yeah.
I do want to have a shout out to those those jail cells, because instead of being square and there was like a door on one side, they were turned to the side, so they're diamond shapes, and the entire corner comes out. If we were doing shopping spree, guys, I would pick one of those.
The set design in this movie is really, really good. I think that's part of why it gets away with its like very obvious sets, is that they look super cool.
I'm going to go with Mike on this one with Kyoko's house because Chapter 2 is, with any movie like this, that's what your make or break chapter. That's when people either decide to go with you or not. And I think that Chapter 2 killed it.
Also, what a story. Like, someone that wants to, like, maim and kill somebody, and then someone who, like, offers themselves up for that. That's
true love.
That's a crazy idea for a story.
Cringiest moment. Greg, where are we going?
Okay. The part in the Golden Pavilion where he's like, here's how we're going to pick up the ladies. I'm going to bump into her and then just start yelling at her right away. And just the whole manipulative air of all of that, it just very much felt like all this stuff that we keep talking about we hate from 85, which is this trick women, you know, get them all confused, and then maybe in the time when they're confused, you can make them fall in love with you and then do sex to them. It feels like a piece of all of that.
And then also use your disability
Yeah.
as like this, you know, like gaslighting pity move that totally works apparently.
I do believe, unfortunately, the thing that is so upsetting is I do believe that what that guy says actually would work, and that's what's so upsetting about it. Is like it seems to be a effective method of manipulating people.
But yeah, it was nice to see some classic 1985 high school shit
Yeah.
in this 50s drama.
Yeah, for sure.
Mike, where are we going?
I think Mishima is 4 in the flashback. It's when we're getting to the grandma, and he cannot even look outside, and she makes him to rub her legs. And forced leg rubbing has different connotations post The Favorite, and I just couldn't.
Yeah, that movie might have broken us for something like "Come rub Grandma's legs." And
Nope.
But honestly, like that's not just us being weird, right? Because then in the Kyoko's house part, that whole relationship with him and his mom, and then the older lady gangster.
Yep.
You know, something's going on there. It's not good.
Yarp.
I'm going to give that to Greg for the perfectly 85 disability bump. But I also want to point out in the leg rubbing scene, the first thing that Grandma does is he's like watching the children play, and he's just enamored by it. Now, this is like the start of how he observes. And the grandma's like, shut the shutters, or shut the drapes, and he does. And then just still stands at the window. Like, he can't see anything anymore. But, like, now, okay, so I will watch this drape then, I guess.
Did you notice the way he moved was like such a little soldier? Like, even as a little boy, he, like, marched in and, like, did, like, you know, very, like, precise motions. He never really got to be a little boy.
It's all about the parents. It's not serving the children. It's the children serving the parents. And that, based on Mary Trump's book, is a good way to fuck up children. Director's signature moment, Greg. How did Paul Schrader the most?
Okay, we don't have a ton to go by, but it was very hard not to see so much of First Reformed in this movie. Like, it's about doing the big thing, right? And standing for something and letting yourself be consumed by something. And so just the shot of Mishima's face as he goes to stab or does stab himself reminded me so much of the Ethan Hawke wrapping himself in the barbed wire, and then just the really close face of like this person doing this really extreme thing to them, and this moment that is both pain but transcendence, and getting confused, getting lost in all those things going on at the same time.
Yeah, one of his things is definitely this, and you see it in First Reform, but also Taxi Driver and Raging Bull, is soldier going off to a war of their own creation. Mm-hmm. And so it's shot exactly like we shoot when an actual army person is going off to war, where they get dressed very slowly, they put all their equipment together, and it's shot in that same like proud patriotic way until you realize what they're actually going off to war to.
Yeah.
And we saw that in Ethan Hawke. Like, it looked just like somebody getting ready for war, but an unnecessary one that, you know, he was the starter of. So that one was really good. Mike, what do you got?
Well, I want to do a different one, I guess, because I can't just say yes and say different things about that. So I'd say also First Reformed and this have the breaking reality. And with First Reformed, there's moments you don't know if they're real or if they're just in Ethan Hawke's mind. And this one has we're breaking by going to the stories and having it look different than the rest of the movie.
They're like flying all around the world from First Reformed.
Like flying, yeah.
Man,
I would say flying all around the world.
Until you brought that up, I had not remembered that. It's like such a big moment in that movie, but I had kind of forgotten it because it's not like any other part of it.
Yeah, it's fucking
yeah.
And I mean, that's the weird thing about Schrader is that his book is called Transcendence in Film, but he is at his heart an American director, and so in First Reformed, his transcendence is showing literal transcendence. You know, like he doesn't follow his idols and do it with the camera. He's just like, no, get him to space.
They're transcending.
Do you see?
Oh man, those were both really good. So both get a point.
Maybe we're starting to understand movies.
Took a few years.
And finally, pound for pound performance. Mike, where are we going with this one?
I think it's hard to argue that Ken Ogata, who plays Mishima in 1970, I think, he's the narrator, he's the main Mishima, which is a great wrestling name. And the we talked about before, like the hurt or rage on his face, but it goes away. Like he dissipates it so quickly, but you can like still sort of see it in his eyes. Is fucking nuts.
Did he have the believable charisma that somebody must have to get to this point?
Yeah, that I do think out of everything that was the least believable when he was doing a cut up, but I was just like, well, he's a celebrity. Like people will just laugh at anything they say. But like you could see him. What was good about the acting is you could see he wasn't acting as a charismatic person. He was acting as somebody who's watched charismatic people.
Imagine
then trying to do it.
We are seeing him through a very specific lens, kind of his awkwardness. I mean, we've seen him as like an awkward child rubbing his grandma's legs, and so it's hard to then see him as a suave, cool guy. But again, it kind of reminds me of the Master. Is if you were not in the thrall of that guy, when the reporters start questioning him, he just freaks out and like is no longer does the spell anymore. And that's Mishima too. Like if you're an acolyte, he seems cool, but if you question him, he seems ridiculous.
Yes, but Philip Seymour Hoffman, I do think, has the ability to, when he's not screaming, be very charismatic.
Yeah.
And so it tricks the audience into sort of, if not like fully going with it and becoming an acolyte, at least understanding how you could become acolytical. Whereas that Ken Ogata, I think, needed a little bit more like Paul Rudd almost, in order to like make it more believable. Or even Donald Trump.
Yeah.
You know, like that's two different things, but gets the same result.
That's a really valid criticism, I think.
Greg, where are we going?
You hate to just do the thing where you say the same answer, so I'll say an even more ridiculous one, which is I'm going to say it's everybody, Ryan. I think, I honestly think from top to bottom, this is the best acted movie by everybody involved that we've seen. Even the little kid does like an amazing little kid job, and it seemed like maybe they didn't have to traumatize him to get that performance out of him, but I don't know. But like everybody would just come in and just absolutely be throwing smoke and just doing a great job, and it always kept the tone of the movie exactly where it needed to be. This movie could have gone goofy in so many different places, and it's the acting of like every little person. Like that guy I brought up that in the scene at the cafe when everyone's walking around them, and he's talking about like, you know, if you're gonna be an adherent to physical beauty, you should kill yourself at the height of your beauty. That guy is on the screen for like 2 minutes, and he's like delivering a transcendent performance.
Yeah, it's like some of those TV shows where there's just a style to the TV show that you can't act poorly. Like you just come in, act the way that everybody else does, and it will all work. I'm gonna give it to Mike. Because I do think that Ogata was ultimately awesome. But to speak back to Greg's thing, like one way that Schrader does follow in the footsteps of his idols, and one of them is Bresson, Mike, that, you know, we watched a bunch of movies from, is every single note is stop fucking acting.
Yeah.
Every time he says cut, he goes over to the actors and says, Les, what are you doing?
It really acting wears.
We're gonna
on
make
you.
the story come off because of the camera and the tone and the waiting and the patience, and stop trying to like hog the spotlight, because all you're doing is you're taking all like Bishop from the X-Men, you're taking all the stuff that's around you and then you're firing it out right at the camera.
Yeah.
We don't need that. All right, so your awards are, for most relatable moment, we have a tie. It was Greg Stutter and Mike's being made fun of no matter what he does.
Go us.
We're cool.
Best chapter
we have
is chapter
wives.
2. Kyoko's house, thank God. cringiest moment was the disabled bump of 1985. Director's signature. Greg, you said Mishima's face, and Mike, you said breaking reality. Those both tied for the win, and performance of the movie was Ken Ogata. When we come back, guys, I'm going to total up all of these points. We'll talk about who won today's show other than Mishima, and how far do we think Mishima will go in the bracket. Gentlemen, the conversations have been had. The tallies have been totaled. And now, Mishima goes into the bracket. Where do we think it's going to end up?
Man, this could be a sneaky movie. This could do it. I'll tell you one thing it has over Come and See is it wasn't such a brutal viewing experience, and so it's kind of like, I don't know, maybe it feels a little bit better, but it felt maybe a little more important than Brazil, which was probably even a more fun experience watching it.
So is it like it's asking more questions than just like the horrors about the horrors of war? Or
yeah, I just think because Come and See is so overwhelming with how brutal everything that's going on is. Yeah, and so I think that you can breathe a little bit more when you're watching this movie, and so it's not such a miserable experience, you know. Like, I watched this movie twice. I like to watch the movies that we watch at least 2 times before the podcast. With Come and See, I was just like, no, I'm not going to do that, you know?
I saw. That's fine. And I do want to say this to the listeners, that the conversation that we've had today may have made it seem that, like, go back to Schrader's phrase, slow cinema, this is not what he's talking about. You know, I do not think there's some sort of like entryway that you do have to get through. It's not super traditional, but it is not one of those movies. It's not Belatar. It's not where like there's one shot for 8 minutes and you have to sit there and watch it. This is, once you get into the flow of this movie, it's super watchable. Yeah. So don't be scared off by like anything that we said.
It employs several different color palettes, and it does it in a stark and electrifying way. It's a combination of music and image that, you know, you feel into like the core of yourself. Yeah, it's a galvanizing experience.
I mean, for better or worse, it's for a movie made by an American dude, and you feel both sides of those things.
Yeah.
All right, guys, I have tallied the points. Mike.
Yes.
You scored, I would say, an incredibly high, especially for you, 32 points.
Nice.
Yeah.
Greg scored 64 points. But the drop pad has a thing where it counts Greg's points as 2.
And you just now figured this out?
Yeah, just now.
Does that mean I've never won before?
No, usually I divide your points in half, and you have way more than Mike. But 64 divided by 2 is 32, guys.
Uh-oh.
Oh, now Greg and I are best friends. We ignore Ryan for a
Yay!
week.
Greg gets a point, I guess, for... No, he said yay.
No, I was saying yay to something else. I saw you were going to give me a point, and I was going to say, like, yay, for me, I won.
But I'm going to keep it here. I think it's our first tie, and I thought about saying, like, all right, trivia, how many chapters did this movie have? And whoever says their name first, I guess, wins. But no, you guys are coming into the ring as both of my best friends, and yet not each other's best friends next week. And I want to make that very clear. If either one of you text each other or bring each other a single basket of muffins, I'm going to freak the fuck out.
For a movie as like unique as this, I think this is a fine ending. We had a good show. He made some good points. I made some good points. It'll go down in history as probably the only tie.
What's up next week, guys? Do you know?
Ron, dude.
Ron!
And I run Kurosawa movies, yeah.
I haven't ended the show, Mike. You're so close to winning right now.
Samurai.
So we are going to, in a movie podcast that just talks about like the last 30, 40 years or so, we're going to get to do a Kurosawa movie. I'm very excited. I've never seen it before. Have you guys seen it?
No, and 85, any movie that I haven't seen in
It's gonna be
85
amazing.
has just changed my life. Like, I'm perpetually blown away. Like, this has been such a cool experience.
We should have done Lady Hawk, Greg, and you'd be like, oh my God.
Lady Hawk.
This
Is she a
movie is so
lady?
good.
Is she a hawk? I don't know. I wasn't paying attention.
So thank you so much, gentlemen, for doing a wonderful job, exactly the same job. How many podcasts can say you guys did the exact same amount of good podcasting? For Mike, for Greg, I am Ryan, and please, keep watching.